your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
And yes, welcome to the Consumer Quarterback Show, helping you win in any marketplace, making you more street smart here as a consumer on the Consumer Quarterback Show. We got a great lineup for you today. Ray Hall Appraisals on the show. He's our valuation expert. Logan Briggs, roofing expert, and Robert Paredes, Fluxx Funding. We're going to talk about alternative financing, creative financing, as well as the traditional stuff with current rates and the economy. We're going to talk about what's happening there. And before we do, we always like to feature our real estate listings and thank one of our sponsors as well, Replenish IV Solutions, longtime friends of the Consumer Quarterback Show. Quick shout out to Stephen and Lisa Gunnan over at replenishivsolutions.com. Something like the Myers cocktail going directly into your bloodstream. All the good stuff, vitamins, nutrients. Replenish IV Solutions, longtime friends of the Consumer Quarterback Show. And a hot listing here. We just listed this property. My wife Lindsay and I own a team, Keller Williams Realty and Livian Coastal Elite, kind of a new model for futuristic model of real estate called Livian, Gary Keller's personal expansion model. 8328 Red Spruce Avenue in Riverview. Great opportunity to own real estate. And a lot of times in these communities, it's, not only do you have a beautiful home, very spacious, well done, but you also have all these amenities. This has 3 community pools, splash park pad, multiple playgrounds, and more, all for a low monthly HOA. This is 8328 Red Spruce Avenue in Riverview. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. This kitchen is gorgeous. Stainless steel appliances, wood cabinetry, tile flooring, and just a great opportunity to own real estate here in Hillsborough County. This is Riverview, Florida, Red Spruce Avenue. All right, 3704 Burger Road in Lutz. This is a mansion for sale, y'all. We've got a mansion for sale. This is $2.4 million, 10,000 square feet, 10 bedrooms, oversized indoor pool, tennis court, library, movie theater, sauna, 2 master suites, grand balcony, and more. 3704 Burger Road in Lutz, Florida. You can see all of our real estate listings, platinumcoastalelite.com. Check us out online, platinumcoastalelite.com. That's right. Shout out to our troops and our veterans. By the way, we have a veteran in studio, Robert Paredes. Welcome back, sir.
Brandon, thanks for having me, man. How are you?
Awesome. Doing well. Blessed and highly favored thanks to our veterans. We're real happy for, we got Independence Day coming up and just thankful, we have another summer here. Beautiful summer.
Yeah, man. Happy to serve and protect our country, man.
Awesome. Good stuff. Appreciate that. Now you're serving in a different way and you're cutting through a lot of the nonsense out there and there's bad information everywhere you look, right?
Yeah.
So you're helping people now as a consumer advocate on the Quarterback Show, but also on your daily basis, just helping people get funded.
Yes, thank you. And first of all, I gotta say this again: NMLS 437134, right?
There you go.
I gotta say that. But before we dive into the mortgages, I just want to say thank you so much for your radio show. Apparently, it worked. The last time I was here about 2-3 weeks ago, we did talk a little bit about a veteran charity that I'm involved with, 100% volunteer. In other words, nobody gets paid.
Awesome.
And we had an event on the 24th coming up this Saturday, and we sold out our tickets. We're sweating it out there a little bit, but
nice.
I think we got some people to come in and buy some tickets as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, thanks for all you're doing out there. That's great stuff, man.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. And, that's what I love about this family, the Salem family, man. They really get behind us, and they support our show partners.
Yes, well, thank you again so much for that. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, so it's an interesting market. We have a market right now, Robert, like no other that we've seen. I mean, it's an interesting market because the inventory's super low still,
right?
But also the buyer pool's low. There's a smaller buyer pool.
Yeah, smaller buyer pool. But I will tell you, we had to talk a little bit about this.
Yep.
The loan officers who've been doing it for a while, I've been doing it for 25 years or so. I've got a lot of buyers that are pre-qualified, but there's just, to your point, there's no inventory.
Yeah.
And the builders can't keep up, man. So it's really tough right now. So, and of course, the ones who have bought a house 3, 4, 5 years ago pre-pandemic, their rates are around 3%, 3.5%, and they don't want to move. They don't want to sell.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a snowball effect.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that's a major thing. It's like people are saying, hey, look, I've got this great rate. Yeah, maybe I'd like to be closer to work, closer to the beach, closer to the grandkids. But I don't want to make the move because I got that 3% rate, and now I know current rates are somewhere in the 6s or 7s.
Yeah, I mean, historically, like I said, I don't think you're much older than you're way younger than I am. Actually, I was pouring quite a while, but I remember in the early 80s, there were 17-18%. I mean, those are credit card fees, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's all relative, 6.5%. It stayed pretty steady the last time I was here.
Yep.
Right, it's just a little bit above 6%, high sixes, low sevens, depending on your credit.
You know, it's interesting. I have kind of two dads, right? The story of two dads. My stepdad was my football coach, and that was awesome. You know, helping us win and learn, teach us how to work and all that. Right. But my biological dad, I haven't talked much about this on air, but he passed away when I was younger. He was an MP in the military, Army, and he developed. Worked with a company called General Development Corporation. So you mentioned the SNL, like the 18%. That was the SNL crisis, I believe, right?
Yes, it was. Yes,
right.
it was.
So this was like, before. Obviously, I was 10 years old when he passed. But I think it was around 87 and 85, 81, those times. But they were developing this General Development Corporation. They would develop out in Port Charlotte, Port LaBelle, all these different places.
That's right.
So you had all these rural areas that had all these roads built and the infrastructure's there, but no houses.
Funny that you mentioned that, because my father was in the Air Force for 30 years. When he was 22 years old, General Development, right?
Yeah,
sold him two
way.
lots in Port Charlotte, and to this day, it's got some roads. But after 2008, they didn't sell anymore. I think he bought it for $3,000 for each, for both lots.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they offered right before 2008, with that craziness happened. They actually offered him $50,000 each.
Wow.
He didn't take it because he said, "We got a little bit more room," and of course, it's worth nothing right now. So I think I might get that when he passes, but not anytime soon. But, you can have it. So.
There you go. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a blast from the past, man.
Yeah, it really is. GDC, right?
Yep.
So, Robert, when we talk about financing, there's I like down payment assistance. Yesterday, Jenny had some good points too with down payment assistance. Right. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. But there's also loans that are called non-QM, outside of the normal, like hard money, private money loans too.
Correct. Yeah. So for those of you who are not in the mortgage world, non-QM, QM means qualified mortgage. That came out right around the Dodd-Frank rule in 2010 because of the 2008 financial crisis. So what they wanted to do, which is actually a good, sometimes you say regulation is not good, but this one actually isn't bad. What it boils down to is that if you're a lender or a bank or whatever, right, you got to make sure that if you're giving a loan to, let's say, Brandon, and it's a regular FHA, VA, conventional loan, you got to be able to make sure that he can actually qualify to pay for that loan. Not no income loan programs or whatever that we're going to talk about in just a minute, but qualified mortgages that you have to prove that you actually have the income to pay for it. So that's the difference between a QM and non-QM. Okay. Mm-hmm. So non-QM are basically, and this is more for self-employed borrowers that can't prove their income. Let's say their top line income is a lot of money, but they write everything off, within the law, and they should, right? But the problem with that is that they can't prove any of their income, whether tax returns or whatever.
Right.
Okay? So here comes the non-QMs that you have to put quite a bit of money down, anywhere from 10 to 20%, depending on your credit or more.
Reduce the risk.
Reduce the risk, exactly right, because it's all about risk, right? And basically, I got one loan program. If you want to buy your primary home, you don't need to show tax returns or anything. Just put 20% down, and you qualify for what we call a non-QM no ratio program. And you can do that. And those are really great right now for any realtors or any self-employed borrowers that want to buy. And the rates are super high, but you can still get it done. If you're not able to do that, if you want a little bit better interest rate and maybe less money down, we can do 12 months bank statements. What that means is if you're a self-employed borrower, get me your last 12 months worth of bank statements, and whatever the average is, that's what we use for your income. Now, there's more moving parts to it, but that's really essentially what it is get me your bank statements, and then we can figure out what that income looks like.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because look, you have the deposits coming in.
Correct.
The way that you structure and you don't want to use manipulate, but
right.
when you're filing taxes, there's ways to do that, right? There's ways to show
tax shelters, within the law,
yeah,
and that's what you're supposed to do. There's nothing wrong with that, and 99% of the time these buyers, these self-employed borrowers, have great credit. They pay their bills on time. The risk is low.
Right.
So some lenders out there, investors, want to take the risk a little bit. You have to put more money down, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So it definitely mitigates the risk.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at real estate trends too, I mean, there's an interesting clip I want to get to. It talks about the real estate trends. So you have the work from home trend happening, right? I talked about in previous shows where 12.9% was the rate for commercial vacancy, the highest on record, almost 13% commercial vacancies.
Yeah.
I want to play this clip here and just look at this. Think about this from a 3 years ago, looking back to the lockdowns. What was the trends? This is interesting.
The increase in people working from home and their decision to abandon cities has had a ripple effect across the country. Daily Wire investigative reporter Mairead Elordi is here with the details. So, Mairead, we're now 3 years out from the first lockdowns. What do the long-term trends look like?
So hundreds of thousands of workers who used to live in major cities and work in person in offices started working from home and moved away once COVID hit. In the 2 years after COVID began, about 1 in 4 workers who moved a long distance away worked remotely in their new location. That's record migration for remote workers. What we're seeing is that people are typically moving to less expensive cities, rural areas, and even vacation spots. This is a huge shift for cities like New York and Los Angeles, which depend on people needing to live in the metropolitan areas for work.
Now, which cities saw the greatest exodus of remote workers specifically?
That would be New York City, then Los Angeles, San Francisco, then Chicago for the top 4. In New York City, 200,000 remote workers moved out in the 2 years after COVID. In the 2 years before the pandemic, only 40,000 remote workers moved out of the city, so a 5-fold increase.
Yeah, so it goes on. The article goes on to talk about how Cape Coral and Naples are one of the highest places where people have moved to.
Yeah.
Specifically because you get into cost benefit, you get into just the vacationing areas. Like, hey, I used to vacation here. Let's move.
Yeah.
Let's get out of these big cities.
And that's what I've been seeing on trend for the last 2.5 years since the pandemic as well. I've always done very good on my business, but after the pandemic and to your point, everybody was leaving New Jersey, New York. They're coming down here because they can work full time, remotely. And I'd say probably a good 25 to 30% said, look, I can work remotely and I don't need to go into an office. Their office could still be, still be in New York, but they can move down here 100% and call it a day.
Right, yeah, corporate's still up there, but they're moving down here. Yeah, so that's definitely a trend that we've seen. It's interesting too. Maybe in a future show we'll do some research on this a little bit more. But the trend, right? Like, I mean, we have no inventory, very little to no inventory. And you mentioned earlier, like, hey, builders are having a hard time keeping up. It's like, what's the bottleneck here? Is it the municipalities? Is it funding? I wonder why the builders. I mean, if I owned a company, I would be buying dirt, building as fast as I could.
Land is very expensive right now. That's what I'm hearing, because I've got some builder friends who are in the business also, higher ups as well, and that's the biggest issue right now is land. Land is expensive, so it doesn't make sense for them to actually do that, and they just can't keep up. It's very tough to try to find help right now in Florida, especially in the construction business.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I've had some land listings, especially lately, a couple of them that they're just. The sellers are, they kind of joke about when you have a home that's gold plated, dipped in home, it's gold plated, it's going to be, they want more money for it. But the same's happening with land. And whenever you look at a development play, I say, look, this is a math equation. I mean, they can't overpay for the dirt, turn around, put the infrastructure, put the roads, build the home, et cetera, right? Yeah. The marketing, I mean, everything, zoning, permitting, all of the costs. So sometimes these sellers are like, oh, well, I don't care. This is what I want. And unfortunately, there's some that just are irrational. They don't listen. And it comes down to it where, like, hey, you can't ask the developer, the builder, to overpay for an asset, set themselves up for failure.
And also, it's just a capacity issue. I mean, I live in Apollo Beach. I've been there almost 2 years now, and I don't know if the last time you were there, but there's so much building and just can't keep up. It just can't keep up. New Publix came up there, and then another, I think, 800 apartment communities in the last less than 1 year actually are up already or very close to it.
Right.
So and of course, Tampa, they were voted top 10 cities in the world by Time Magazine to move here. So it's really just basic supply and demand as well.
Yeah.
So
when I see those apartment complexes being built too, I kind of laugh on one hand. Yeah, and the materials they use too, it's the PSP board or whatever USB board they push. I mean, it's pressed boards put together. I mean, the quality of these things is bad. I mean, those are going to be bad shape 20 years from now.
Well, or God forbid, right? If Hurricane Robert comes through Tampa, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's right.
Anyway, yeah.
All right, Robert Paredes, Fluxx Funding, consumerqb.com. Taking a quick break, coming back here more with Robert. We're going to jump into a little bit more about the hometown heroes, some down payment assistance money available, the average median income, as well as a USF football stadium. What could the economic impact of a USF on-campus football stadium be? We're going to talk with Robert about that here on the flip side. Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com. And we're back. Brandon Rhymes, Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty, Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment, part of the luxury division as well as commercial division as well. Help you with vacant land, commercial properties. Reach out. We'd love to work with you, and we would feature your listing live on air, just like we do all of our 60 other listings here in Tampa Bay. We got 6101 34th Street West. This is a property from Linda on our team, who does just a great job working with her buyers and sellers. 6101 34th Street West, unit number 6H. This is a property that we've got down in Bradenton. It's a beautiful property. Just hit the market a week or two ago. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 1,800 square feet, luxurious gated community of Vizcaya. 3-2 bonus room as well. 6101 34th Street, unit number 6H. Spacious living room, cathedral ceilings. Great opportunity to own real estate right here in beautiful Tampa Bay. 7202 U.S. Highway 301 South in Riverview. This one in Riverview is a great opportunity for a commercial buy. This is a opportunity in Riverview, corner lot location. You've got a muffler shop / mechanic shop there, and then you also have a building right next door currently operating as a barber shop, but it could easily be any type of professional: mortgage, real estate, title, attorney's office, doctor's office. 7202 U.S. Highway 301 South in Riverview, corner lot, $799 list price. And you can see all of our listings at Platinum Coastal Elite. This is God's country. All right, Robert Paredes in the house, Fluxx Funding. Interesting story I was reading over the weekend. USF Board of Trustees Chairperson Will Weatherford. Is that the quarterback that used to play up at? I think he played in Florida State, but they run the risk of building a $340 million on-campus football stadium. So for years in Tampa Bay, they've been playing at Raymond James. I was on the inaugural team for the South Florida Bulls over 20-something years ago now, I guess. But
that ages just a little bit.
Yeah, right. But I believe the risk, he says, the greater risk not to do it. USF charged ahead. Plan to erect 35,000 square foot stadium north of the practice fields for the 26th season. The vote is not the last step. That's a major milestone, historic day. They're kind of talking about that from that perspective. $140 million will come from various sources. $50 million in donations from the school's private fundraising. $31 million from the school capital improvement fund. $59 million from other sources, other funds, including equipment sales, broadband equipment sales, licensing. There is one trustee Jennifer Schneider, faculty senate president, saying she voted against it because it's the fears of hidden fees, hidden costs that could be diverted from academics. The price does not include $18 million USF expects to spend to move the intramural fields, $26 million infrastructure. But the article goes on to talk about how, now that you have a venue, you can do all of the other, concerts, et cetera, right? So how do you measure an economic impact from something like that?
I'm first of all, I went to a college that we didn't have a real football team. I'm not going to mention who they are because those guys are going to kill me about it. But on strictly on an economic point of view,
yeah,
it really does make sense because you've got Miami, you've got FSU to have their own stadium,
right?
And if you want USF to be a contention anywhere, I would think so. Is that you got to have your own stadium. And to your point, you can monetize it, different concerts and so on and so forth as well. It just makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes more sense.
Yeah, because you're driving across Tampa, to get to Del Mabry, to get to Raymond James.
Right.
Not as attractive to a lot of people. The kids are, you get into the whole aspect of drinking and driving in some cases, heading back to campus, et cetera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. USF, finally looks like they might be making a move. To me, they ruined. I've interviewed Coach Levitt on this show. If you want to check that in the archives, go to youtube.com and look for Jim Levitt's interview. And the school ran him off. They shouldn't have done that. Anyhow, they're buried in recruiting, and they're buried in dollars for contracts. Skip Holtz to Taggart to all these different coaches. So a lot of people say that program's buried. They're not coming back no matter what, for a while at least. But we've got just a couple of minutes left, Robert. I wanted to get into the Hometown Heroes program, and then also the average median income.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to give an overview a little bit about down payment assistance so we can really dive into Hometown Heroes. The one thing you have to know about down payment assistance, it's really all, I'd say 99% of your down payment assistance is all income driven, right? In other words, if you're making $500,000, you don't need down payment assistance. You're not going to get down payment assistance, right? If you're making $150,000, $200,000 and you don't know how to save, then that's just on you.
Right.
Okay. I do have a loan program that will allow you to do that because I'm a broker, but in essence, down payment assistance is all income driven. Okay. And you can get anywhere from $5,000 as a grant where you don't have to pay it back, all the way up to a Hometown Heroes, which I don't remember if I mentioned it last time I was here, but they actually changed the guidelines come July 1st to where now you can get up to $35,000, and before it was $25,000.
Nice.
And now there's no job restriction. In other words, Hometown Heroes was if you're a firefighter, a police officer, teacher, anything in the health industry,
right?
You qualify for your job. So now the job description has pretty much gone. The only type of job that you need to have is a brick and mortar that's located in Florida. So let's say, for instance, you work at Google, and they're in Seattle, I think, or Washington, or whatever, in the West Coast.
Palo Alto,
right. So if you have an actual brick and mortar in the Florida, then you are considered, okay, you're fine.
Yeah. No, hey, that's great, man. I love that. Hometown Heroes, average median income, 30 seconds back to you.
It really, bottom line is that those income limitations I told you about, they raised it a little bit. So that means now on Hometown Heroes, if you were making more than $123,000, you don't qualify. Now they raised it to $130,000. Also, all your down payment assistance programs as well, they upped it up a little bit as well, so more folks can qualify.
That's
on
awesome.
The income level.
Yeah. Hey, reach out. The only way you know is if you reach out. You reach out to the show. 727-263-3707. Call 727-263-3707. Online at consumerqb.com. We'll put you in touch with Robert Paredes, Fluxx Funding. Thanks for coming in.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Appreciate
it's great content. Thanks for that.
Okay.
And race ticket giveaway online. Check out our social media at Brandon Rhymes 1, at CQB Show. 2 VIP raise tickets, compliments of Real Mike Murphy. Follow at Real Mike Murphy as well online. Coming up, Logan Briggs, Total Home Roofing, our contractor expert contributor on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show. Please make sure to send him all of your real estate deals and subscribe to the Consumer Quarterback Show podcast.